art is a good way to draw people in. Everybody, loves artwork and things that make them smile, and then look a bit closer and think, oh, wow, that's made from old rubbish, basically.
Doing the Artists in the Park scheme, you get closer than what you would in a normal situation, because you can get the detail that makes it as close as you can to what you're actually aiming to reproduce.
Really, for the last 30 years I've been doing work that in some way has related to water. So it's not a surprise then that I've ended up doing this work that really reflects everything I've done for the last 30 years.
My work is in recycled materials, and I do mixed media sculptures, and I use a lot of ghost net, recycled fishing net material in my work. I've got a background in the fishing industry, so I've seen firsthand the problems that you see with increasing amounts of plastic rubbish at sea, and I just wanted to work in a medium that was drawing attention to that.
I started years ago when I first did needle felting. It was through a craft group, and then one Christmas I made a little teddy bear for about 60 different people, which is a lot because it is actually a very slow craft form. So I was sort of looking at stretching, what else could I do. So I think one of the great things of working with the Wildlife Park is that it sort of stretches what you gets you out of a rut and into, this is have you thought about doing this? What can we do with this? So yeah, it's really lovely, good place to work.
I call myself a ceramic sculptor because I don't do pots, I don't make pots as such, so I'm not really a potter. But what I do is create sort of free-form sculptures through the use of clay. Like I might take a leaf like this and actually press it into the clay, and like the back you'll get those nice veins, and you can see the little indentations and stuff, so you can use your fingers just to give that lovely feeling that it's alive. And I think that's the special thing, if you can make something look alive and flowing, then it's pretty cool.
I started off making some marine creatures, which was more in line with my background, and then the 2018 Threatened Species exhibition through the Territory Wildlife Park was focusing on Reach for the Skies, and so I thought about making a bird because of the exhibition focus, basically. And then I got hooked on birds. I just loved their form, and it really suited the material I was using. So making a very lightweight skeleton, like a bird skeleton, and then overweaving it with deconstructed ghost net material just seemed fitting.
I did a community project with the Atlas moth, which is just education about the Atlas moth. My role was to teach people how to actually make an atlas moth. And so in the process of teaching people, you're teaching them about the caterpillars of all these different stages. So in the process of teaching them how to make the caterpillars, they were learning about the different life cycles of the moth, and then about these beautiful moths we had around that needed more support, so needed more trees growing that they could eat. And yeah, so it was a really positive experience and sort of broadened who would actually know about it.
When I first got the Artist in the Park and I went out there, I wasn't really sure where I would focus, which sort of habitat I would focus on. But when I went through the monsoon forest, it was like, that's it. Because I love water, I love those top end springs, and I love leaves. And those springs, you know, the water just appears out of the ground, narrows down to this little stream, and then it disappears into the sand, you know, it becomes groundwater. It's, you know, like magic, really.
I unravel a rope, say an old fishing rope, to its finest component, and it's terrible to work with, so it's very challenging. But I continue despite it, because I really like the way the material just becomes something completely different once you've unravelled it and woven with it. Often someone looking at it won't realise that it's made from an old fishing rope or an old net or something. It just doesn't look like what it started out with originally, and that's what I enjoy, you know, creating with that.
I think when people are surprised that it's felted is sort of like, it's worked. The cane toad, I was dropping it off from work. I was doing it at lunchtime, so I just put it in a box and had it in my office. And the number of people that jumped a mile and, you know, like, what'd you bring a cane toad in for? Was sort of like, really was like, wow, I've actually, it looks like what I was aiming for, that when they've sort of walked past, it's actually given them the sense of there really is a cane toad in the office. And that feels nice, that you've actually achieved what you set out to do.
It's really interesting how things just evolve. You know, you have all these little problems along the way and you figure out solutions to those problems, and then they lead you to somewhere else and a new problem and a new solution.
I like a challenge, and I think that's sort of something that's been really good, is you've got to be brave enough to not worry about failing. There'll be times when it's like, yeah, no, that can go. So yeah, sometimes they're better than others, but yeah, it's a really nice feeling when you can see that it looks like what you've actually set out to achieve.
It's always been about the message in one way or another, whether it was going to be birds or turtles or whatever I chose to make. I reckon I've got a lot of birds in me yet. You know, it's just material, it's endless, because I've always loved birds, and you know, there's just so many fantastic birds in the Northern Territory, and knowing I can go down to the park at any time and just get inspiration from the flight deck or the billabong or wherever, it's great.